Hey everyone. We've had a question about feeling less than someone, feeling less worthy. Um, Hi Claire, I'm wondering if you could guide me in some way. I have financial difficulties, so I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself in the area of work. I have insecurity issues which tie into this. In particular, I wanted to ask you about feeling insecure around certain clients. Yeah, I see that I feel less than them and then tend to have panic attacks with them. I can see that it's thought and I try to dig into the why do I feel less than them. I can see what's happening here, and yet I don't think I'm observing. It all comes down to separation. But do we at some point see through this more clearly if we keep questioning it? I've been doing that for years and logically I can see it, but I think the program is very strong. So perhaps something else has to clue in. Yeah, it's a great question, isn't it? And maybe all of us in some way, or many of us, have experienced that feeling of um, being with someone and feeling inadequate or less than them, not so worthy, not so special, not so successful, not so high achieving, not so beautiful, not so strong, not so fit, not so settled, not so whatever it is. Often there's something, and in that interaction we're feeling less, and as we can see from the listener's question, that then provokes a very extreme reaction of panic, um, which is very understandable when we think that that thought of being not good enough immediately is tying into work and money and security and future and job. And so it's not just a thought in that moment of I'm not good enough. It's actually, it's a life and death thought, isn't it? I'm not good enough, and because I'm not good enough, I'm going to end up with no food, nowhere to live. It's that sort of connection of thinking, catastrophic life and death. So no wonder we're having panic attacks with that. Makes so much sense. And so the listeners asking, I've inquired and looked into this for years and years, and nothing's shifting. What needs to happen? Well, in a way, this all hinges on who's asking that question. Because when who is asking that question is the fearful thought about money and future and how can I stop panicking so that I can do a good job and secure this relationship and not lose my job. Out of that space, nothing can be heard, because all we're after is the fix to get rid of this panic at all cost, get rid of this feeling of unworthiness at all cost, so that I can secure myself. And so any answer, this video included, will go into that space, and it'll just sound like blah blah blah, really. It'll just sound like the same old, because what I want is a fix. What I want is the way out. And what I want is a way out of this mind. I want the solution to solve these problems, creating these problems that are taking place in this mind. And there isn't any solution for that. And so then the mind quite likely just switches off and says, well, I'm not interested then, because that's all I want. Don't waste my time with anything else. But when we can hear it, and eventually, I really think if we keep just listening in, there will be something that resonates, maybe from a different teacher, maybe from a book or a video, whatever, but something will resonate that will show that mental noise to be just a creation of mental noise and nothing else. It has no information in it. It has nothing of value. The thoughts about the client are only our own creation out of our own conditioning. The ideas of the future have got nothing to do with reality, but it looks so real. And particularly when it comes down to that comparison of ourselves and others, especially when it looks like there's a lot hinging on it, so much evidence is there for why that person is better than us and why we should feel unworthy and lowly and inadequate, because, you know, there's this and that and this and this and all these reasons. And so the case against us, the case against our worth is rock solid, and the case for their ultimate superiority equally, you know. But what's happening when we're in that trance, is a trance really, where there's a concept of us interacting with a concept of them. And that's all we get. That's the experience in that moment. The entire reality, which is underneath a reality of infinite potential that can be looked at, can be seen in any way. Out of that infinite potential, the mind is bringing all attention, all focus, all energy, all anxiety onto this. They are better than me. And it's completely a construction. It's a construction of belief and learning and conditioning. It's not that me, Claire, or the listener created that construction. It's been constructed. The brain has acquired that pattern of seeing. No one's done it. It's just what's been accumulated. But nevertheless, what can happen is that instead of being lost in that construction in which, it's in a way it's tragic, in a way, and in another way it's sort of a miracle of the mind that this can happen. The whole of reality is revolving around that, like, ultimately limited, created idea of what I am and of what they are. And in that space, the actual client is nowhere to be seen. All that's happening is really, if to be brutal, our own self-obsession in that moment. We are interacting with ourself. The mind is interacting with itself. It has nothing to do with the actual person in front of us. And this is what is amazing when this starts to be seen, and when it's like over and over for the whole of the rest of our lives, we're going to use that feeling of stress and resentment or resistance or insecurity as a signal. Right now, the mind is creating stuff that isn't true. It's not true. No matter how true it looks, it's not true. And instead, let's just listen and see and ask and talk and hear and be present and to the most extent that we're able to, really have that client, have that person really through every sense, listen, look, like sort of feel the sense of them. And that's the reality of them as much as we can have. And what is amazing in that space when the concept of me and them falls away and all the interaction is no longer at that superficial thought created mirror level, when there is just listening, God, we see the humanness of someone then. when they're not this caricature, this sort of stereotype, and oh, they've got such and such watch, so therefore they must be blah blah, and they talk in this way, so therefore they must think blah blah. And when we're out of all of that and we're just listening to someone really present, then only then really do we get the fullness of them, the reality of them. And it will be a world away from what the mind is creating with all its insecurity and conditioned belief. Yeah, so what to do is the same as always, is to use, even in the midst of the panic attack, it's possible for the witnessing presence that we are to see what's going on, to see that creation of mind. And that's all we're going to do for the rest of our lives. Yeah, that's it. And the times when we don't, and of course there would be times when we don't, everyone, when we're just so caught up in the story, just in that moment, we're living the story. We're living a belief of ourselves as limited, as vulnerable, as isolated, separate. Just as we would go to see a film, just as we would read a novel for all that tension and drama and excitement and life and death. It's the same. Yeah, but because it just looks so real, we experience it as real life. So thank you for that question. It's a universal question, so you're speaking for all of us. Thank you. Lots of love. Bye.